Welcome everybody to our little 5-minute pre-show. Thanks for joining. Remember, keep your screens clean. I have an idea. Foot tapping music. Well, welcome to GoFor Lunch number 52, the big 5-2, which means you and I have been doing this for 1 year. Amazing, isn't it? So this is a big day for 3 reasons that we're going to talk about today. Maybe there's other reasons in your world, but we're going to talk about 3 reasons here today. So, isn't that special? My effects are not doing what I want them to do, but let's fix that. There we go. May the 4th be with you. So, any Star Wars fans out there, this is the day, the 4th of May, that Star Wars fans look back on their favorite Star Wars episodes. But that's not all that happens on Tuesdays. It's Taco Tuesday. So another reason to get excited. So welcome. If you're new here, please type new in the comments so we can all get to know you. And if you are new, you don't know that I'm Roger Harmon with GoFor Technology, where we make your technology work for you. And we have Carolyn is joining us. It is a beautiful day in May on the 4th in Tucson. And all the way from Vail, we have Gretchen and Bob. May the 4th be with you too, sir. And Carolyn says, yeah, thank you, Carolyn. I was hoping somebody would correct me on how to spell y'all. I think I'm saying it right, but I didn't know how to spell it. So that's great. So I appreciate that. So today we are going to talk about podcast listening. So this is something that some people use and a lot of people don't know about. So we're going to learn about it today. So today's goals are to learn or clarify what exactly is this thing called a podcast. And we're going to learn how to find podcasts that you would be interested in. Then we're going to learn how to listen to those podcasts after you found them. And we're going to know that you can do those on iOS, on macOS, and we're going to answer any questions you have about those podcasts. And at the end, we'll even answer questions about other things if we have time. So what is a podcast? Well, kind of a dictionary definition is it's an episodic series of spoken word digital audio files. In other words, somebody's talking into a computer or an iPhone and putting it out on the internet to let other people listen. So you can download these on any number of different devices, so it's easy for you to listen to a podcast. You can also stream podcasts, so you don't necessarily have to take up storage space on your device. You can just listen to them live, so to speak, even though they're recorded, and you don't have to store them. So there's two ways, download or stream. So a podcast is just an easy way to manage information for your personal consumption. And there are many sources for podcasts. Today we're going to concentrate on the Apple Podcast app, which appears in many places. There's also many different ways to access these sources of podcasts and play them back. One would be your iPhone, your iPad, your Mac, and you can think of podcasts as radio programs on your schedule. You know, we have a DVR, digital video recorder, so you might say this is a DAR, digital audio recorder, right? Am I right? So what is a podcast? It's a pre-recorded episode that you download and listen to, and you need the internet to download it originally, but once you've downloaded it, you can play it back without the internet. So that's a real convenience. So if you're somewhere where you don't have internet, then you can still listen to podcasts if you downloaded a podcast. So where did podcasts come from? Back in 2004, there was a thing called an iPod. And then people wanted to broadcast things out to iPods, so they created the term podcast, which is iPod plus broadcast. Podcast. So podcasts are mostly free. This has been changing in the last few years. So now we do have some premium podcasts more than before. And we'll talk a little bit about that here in a minute. So let's talk about the who of podcasts. So who can create a podcast? So anybody with a smartphone or a computer can actually create a podcast. That's a very low barrier of entry. You could do it if you had something that you were passionate about and wanted to spread that word to other people, or you felt you you'd like to entertain people. Maybe you're a musician or a magician, or you want to, somehow get your message out there in the world. A podcast is probably the least expensive and easiest way to do that. So large organizations are doing podcasts more and more. You've probably heard of NPR and PBS podcasts, as well as other TV networks are doing that. Then the tech companies, of course, are using the technology to reach their clients and customers. Motion picture studios are using podcasts to enhance the hype on their upcoming productions. And so there's several audiences for podcasts. There are broad audiences. So that would be things like sports. And then there are what we would call niche, if we spoke in French, audiences. So let's say you're into spinning. So your spinning might be the kind of spinning on a stationary bicycle, or it might be the kind of spinning that involves wool. So as we look more into the who of podcasts, let's look at this little infographic here. So we're going to put that up so we can all see it. So just now this is a little older, but it was a good infographic. So please pardon the fact that this only goes up to about 2017. But here are just gives you an idea of what's happening in the podcast world. So 40% are original. Let's see if we can get that a little larger for you. And apparently my Zoom doesn't want to work right now. It worked when I tried it earlier today. So 40% are educational, 48% are comedy, and then we go on down the line here: news, sports, politics, gaming, tech, and tied for 16% is tech and sci-fi. So podcasts are growing by leaps and bounds. So between 2013, 2017, it doubled. I'm sure it's probably much more than that now. And so back in the time when these statistics were correct, up till 2017, 65% of the active listeners had only started listening to podcasts in the last 3 years. So here's a little glimpse at who is listening to podcasts. So the biggest group you might imagine were the millennials, 18 to 34-year-olds. Then we have the Gen Xers, which is up to 54 years old, 33% of them. Then the baby boomers and above, 16%. And then the kids are only 7%, but I'm guessing these percentages have changed. More males than females at that time were listening to podcasts. That's probably changed. And people with a graduate degree were in the lead here as far as who listen to podcasts by educational levels. So this is the podcasting ad revenue. So this is the money paid out to podcasters. And you can see there's a big jump here in just 2 years. And the question here, why? Why do we listen? So there's kind of two things they're looking at here. On the left, we see education, because the retention rate for auditory learning is 2 times higher than reading and 4 times higher than a lecture. That's not too hard to understand. And between 2014 and 2015, teachers were using podcast-based lesson plans. That grew by a large percentage, at least at this website. On the other hand, we've got entertainment. So communications research indicates that dramatized audio yields increased levels of mental imagery. So when we hear something that's dramatized, lets our brain go to work and imagine what's going on. Even though we don't see it, we only hear it. So let's go back to learn more about the why of podcasts. So the reason you might want to listen to a podcast is to learn more about topics that are not in the mainstream of today's media. Or you may have entertainment that is more in a limited place than the mainstream media. So you can find exactly what you want to be entertained by. Where are these podcasts? Well, they're on iOS, in an iPhone app, in an iPad app, they're on a Mac app, and some people that do podcasts also have websites. So what happens with a website, you'll see a little horizontal strip on a web page, and on the left-hand side of that strip is an arrow, a play arrow, which is a little triangle with a point going to the left. And you can actually click that little play button and it will play right there on a website. So you can also use smart speakers like those from Amazon and Google. And if you have a Sonos system, you can certainly listen to podcasts right there. The where of podcasts. Where could you listen to a podcast? Well, you might do it while you're walking in the early cool of the day, which is what we'll probably start doing here pretty soon, if not already. When you're exercising, when you're driving, of course, keeping your eyes on the road, but you can keep your ears listening to a podcast. You could do it during your lunch break, except not on Tuesdays. Tuesdays, right here. And you could do it anytime your ears are available, maybe your hands are doing something else. So you might kind of sum it up as to when can you listen to the podcast that you decided you like? Well, shows are released in various times. Some are come out daily. One of my favorite ones, called Mac OS Ken, is out Monday through Friday every day. Some of them come out weekly, and some of them come out whenever the creator decides they've got enough content to put out a podcast. So one of the advantages of podcasts, because they are recorded and the recordings are kept, is when you find a podcast on a subject that you are interested in, you can go back to that first podcast in that series and catch up. So unlike like a radio program where you had to be at a certain time to listen to that show, you can start from the beginning and catch up to the current one, because all the shows have backlogs that you can go back and watch, or listen to, I should say. And so basically the answer to when podcasts is whenever, whatever turns you on, you can turn on a podcast. I just made that up. So how do podcasts work? Let's get down to the nitty gritty. So there is an Apple Podcast app. There's the icon right there on the right-hand side of your screen, right up there. And it comes on various different operating systems. So here's where it gets a little complicated. If you are running Mojave or an earlier Mac OS, then it's in iTunes. However, iTunes, rest in peace, went away when they brought out Catalina and, of course, Big Sur. Now you have the podcast app, very similar to the way you have it on your iPhone. You have it on your Mac if you're running Catalina or later. So, again, there is an app in iOS. So while I check for questions, we're going to jump into a live demo. So Gretchen has a topical question here. Gretchen wants to know, what is Taco Tuesday? It's the day of the week that you should be eating tacos. Hi, Judy. Long time no see. And Stanley's here. Glad to see you, Stanley. Chris. And see, I clicked on Chris and I got Gretchen. Hi, Gretchen. So now Chris comes up, and Chris is going to help us out by telling us that The Economist has a fascinating series of podcasts. So good to know. Okay, so let's go and look at some examples of how you could use the podcast app in various places. So we're going to start off with Mojave or earlier. So we, as you can see in the top left-hand corner, we are in iTunes. Okay, so when you first open up iTunes, it looks like this. But where are the podcasts? Well, they're kind of hidden. You have to go up here in the upper left-hand corner under the play button. You see the triangle there pointing to the right, as I described earlier. That's a play button. And down here where it says music, you click on the up and down arrows, and lo and behold, you go down to the fourth item, and there they are, podcasts. So now in this first column, these are podcasts that I subscribe to in the podcast app. I must tell you that I do not play podcasts in the Apple Podcast app. I use another app called Overcast, and there are a multitude of apps that you can get to play podcasts other than the Apple Podcast app. So today we're talking about the Apple app because you all have it on your Mac and on your iPhone. So that's why. So again, if you want to know about these third-party apps, please let me know, and we'll do a Go for Lunch talking about those. So let's jump back here. So again, so these are the ones that I have subscribed to. I'm sorry, I've tried to make that bigger, but the way I get this from my other Mac here, it won't zoom in. So if you're watching this on an iPhone, my apologies. So now we've clicked on this one podcast, Mac OS Ken, and you can see here that for some reason it doesn't have today's edition. So I'm assuming that Mac OS Ken happened today, but sometimes last week he was sick because he got a bad reaction from his vaccination. So here you can see the little progress bar. I already listened to a little bit of this. And up here you see where it says unplayed. So this is a list of my unplayed ones, which in this case will be most all of them because, again, I don't listen to them here. So up here on the top, we are looking at my library. So the library consists of the podcasts to which I have subscribed. And then I can click on the unplayed button, and you'll see a variety of the ones that I haven't listened to. Of course, that's, again, all there. And for some reason, the iTunes store is not working here in the iTunes version, but we will look at that in a different version here in a second. So that's the way it works. So you can see as I mouse over Ken here, I get another play button. I can just click on this, and there's the podcast. Okay, so that's the way it works in iTunes. So let's look and see how it works in Catalina, which is, of course, the second oldest or second newest operating system, Big Sur being the current operating system. And in June at the Worldwide Developers Conference, we will learn what the next operating system is called. Probably going to call Bakersfield. What do you think? Okay, so let's jump into the podcast app on. Okay, I knew this was going to do this. Okay, so there we are. I think you're seeing that. Yes, you are. Okay, so it looks kind of like the podcast app on iTunes, the old one. Things have been moved around here, so you see now the search is up here. We're going to talk about searching here in a minute. Listen now is next, so this is looking at things it thinks I want to listen to, and then here are the latest episodes of the ones that I've subscribed to down below. I can browse. So there are things that they're promoting, the featured podcasts, and you can scroll across and see all of those. And then the next section here below are new and noteworthy. So if you wanted to watch the Apple event where they changed podcasts, which we're going to talk about in a second, that was right there. Then if you want to look in certain categories, you've got the categories next. And this is going to be similar on your iPhone app, but it's easier to see here. So I'm talking more about it here, but know that this is all available. And of course, they're trying to make the apps on your iPhone and on your Mac look more like each other, so it is less confusing. So again, we have some categories: building resilience, meditation and the mind, self-care. And then if you're new to podcasts and get more of a flavor of what's going on, you can click on these different themes here: trending, binge-worthy, in-depth interviews. Here's some more categories: late night. They do have podcasts for kids, so for your kids or grandkids, you want to keep them entertained, maybe you can get them hooked on a podcast. So that's the way it works. So now, let's say that you decide you want to give podcasts a try. So how do you find a podcast that meets your interests? So the way you would do that would be to go back here to the podcasts. There we are. And you would click up here in the search. And so let's say we want to find out more about gardening. Okay, and you can see they've put in some suggestions down here that you could narrow the search with, but we're just going to get the broadest results that we can. I'm going to hit return. And there, look at all the stuff on gardening. So the first section are episodes of different gardening, and you see the date here, so you can see how recent they are. Then down here they have the shows. Again, we can scroll and look at all these different gardening shows, and so that's the way you would find things that you're interested in. If you want to see what other people are looking at, you could look at the top charts. So these are the most popular podcasts at the moment if you want to see what is being watched by the most people. So that is the way it works when you are in your Catalina or Big Sur operating system on your Mac. So I am unlocking my iPhone, and I am going to share my iPhone screen with you in just a second, and it should be popping up right now. And let's see here if we can get it. There it is. Okay, so here we are on an iPhone, and we're running iOS 14. So how do we find things on iPhone when they're not on the home screen? Well, what I do is I put my finger in the center, like right there on the moon, and I swipe down and I get to search. And then I simply type in P-O, and voila, there's podcast in the upper left-hand corner. There's that icon that we've seen before. So now we we went right into browsing. So I'm going to click in the lower left-hand corner where it says Learn Now or Listen Now. So you see, it's hard to read on the old iPhone. So the first section we have very similar. We have Up Next. So some of these are ones that I subscribe to, and some of these are ones like this IRL, which means in real life. IRL, in real life. And so some of these are ones that I've never subscribed to that they are suggesting for me. So then we go down to latest episodes here in the iOS app, and these are the ones that I have subscribed to. And you can see the little circle there to the right of TechMean Ride Home. It's trying to download that one right now. But then on Mac OS X, the next one down, you see the purple cloud on the right, which means it would have to be downloaded before I could listen to it, but it doesn't take very long. So then these are episodes that I might like. Again, I can scroll from right to left, and this Hacking Humans, I don't think I subscribe to that. I'm sure I haven't subscribed to the Vergecast. So again, they're intermixing ones I've subscribed to with ones they think I might like. They're using that artificial intelligence. And so again, right here, it does say shows I might like. So this is based on the ones that I have subscribed to. You can see some of the same ones that we had above. And then here's the ones that I've recently played, and you can see the little circle on the right, which means this is almost downloaded. So that's how you would get to. So if we're going to click on this and see on this TechMean Ride Home, and we're going to unmute the iPhone so you can hear it.
.design reflects what you do as a designer and helps you improve your branding.
So you
Unlike with .com or .net, with .design, customers, clients, and employers instantly understand what you do even before arriving at your website. Porkbun is offering our listeners a free .design domain name of your choice to showcase your designs. Whether you've built your website with services like Wix or Squarespace, you can easily connect your .design domain to your website or platform. Major brands like Spotify, Slack, Airbnb, Adobe, and Amazon are already using .design. Get on board and get your name before it's gone. Your domain name is the first thing that every client sees. Using a free .design domain name will help you achieve a unique identity which no other domain name can do. Simply go to porkbun.com/TLD/design and use coupon code RIDE to get your free design. That's porkbun.com/TLD/design and promo code RIDE.
Then you have a couple little controls here if you want to.
How often do we talk about cyber attacks on this podcast? Seemingly every other day, right? Well, think about this. To win, /TLD/design and promo code RIDE.
Forward 30 seconds. You click the little.
How often do we talk about cyber attacks on this podcast? Also give you precision focus to end cyber attacks instantly on computers, mobile devices, servers, and the cloud. Finally today, guess what? The big Apple versus Epic Games trial begins today. There's been a slow drip of new information trickling out over the last few days because of the documents that are being shuffled around in preparation for this trial. For example, we have learned that Microsoft planned to reduce its cut from 30% to 12%.
We're hearing it. And okay. That is how it works on the iPhone, and of course iPad is similar, except you have a bigger screen. Now down here in the very lower left-hand corner in purple, it's hard to read, it says 1.5x. And now I tapped on that, and now it says 2x. And now I tapped on it again, and it says half x. So what that means is you can listen to these things at different speeds than when the speed they were recorded at. So if I want to slow it down less than what it was recorded to, I could listen to it at half speed. That's normal speed, 1x, and this is 1.5 times, and then 2 times. So that's actually how I listen to podcasts on my podcast app of choice, which is called Overcast. I usually listen to everything at 1.75, 1.75 times the normal speed. So I can listen to more casts in less time. And actually, when I hear them in the normal speed, my brain is saying, gee, that's too slow. So your brain, even though you don't think it will happen, your brain will adapt to that. You just have to give it some time, and it will adapt to listening to things at advanced speed. So that is something that is a time saver. So you can listen to more. And as Chris is mentioning here, third-party apps are good because Apple's podcast app keeps evolving, and it can be confusing. Hopefully, it is getting better. And they announced at the last Apple event that they were adding this premium tier to podcasts, and that actually hasn't been implemented yet. So that'll be a change to the podcast app. So the terminology is going to change. Right now, you subscribe to a podcast. After that change in the next few days, you're going to follow a podcast unless it's a premium podcast that charges money, then you're going to subscribe. So subscribe now means you're going to pay for it. Follow means it's free. So that's the change that's coming up here. So Judy says she's been paying $3.25 a month for iTunes. So I think the $3.25 a month is for your storage, your iCloud storage. So I don't think there was ever a charge for iTunes, but we'll look at that closer offline. And Susan needs another lifetime because of all this information that she'd like to listen to on podcasts, but doesn't have enough time in the day to do that. So I can understand that.
So what gives? And then there are web browsers. Apple has long made the case that if you don't want to buy things through Apple's in-app systems, no problem. Just open up Safari and do it there. Part of Apple's defense will be that there's no way it could be a monopoly simply because Safari exists, and so do web apps. And it will surely point to things like Microsoft's new cloud gaming service, which wasn't allowed in the App Store, but is now coming to iOS through Safari, end quote. Get your popcorn out, people, because as mentioned, this is only going to be a 3-week trial. Tim Sweeney, CEO of Epic, is slated to testify, as well as Tim Cook, Eddie Q, Craig Federighi, and Phil Schiller, among others, for the Apple side. Let's get ready to rumble.
And ask questions, which makes
So I downloaded that Chia app on my iMac. I've set up a plot, I think. So I guess I'm farming now, I think. It's hard to say. Chia is definitely overselling how easy it is to set up a node and start farming, I think.
As may the 4th be with you. So please subscribe
This week.
to
Talk to you tomorrow.
podcast down below in YouTube.
Coming up on show 1070, the Hyundai Ioniq 5 isn't even out yet, and already being lined up for a grid storage project. Stick around and I'll tell you more.
YouTube video, which is
Also on the podcast today, you've got a spare £1 million lying around. Buy yourself an early EV. Rivian's insurance deal is revealed, and how Biden plans to build 500 EV charging stations. Those stories and more coming up on the podcast today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening in the world. Welcome to EV News Daily. For what happened on Sunday, 2nd of May, my name is Martin Lee. I go through every EV story, so you don't have to. Audio edition only today. Then I'll do the video version Monday to Friday. That means the audio version can be at the weekends easier to make because audio for me is so much quicker, having spent 20 plus years in radio, and also because the video takes so long. And it's nice to have an audio version that's maybe, I don't know, a little bit more of a discussion with you about what's happening in the world of electric vehicles. And we welcome two new Patreon producers. Thank you very much for signing up on Patreon. How we fund this podcast. Alex and Betty. Alex F. Timmy, or F. Timmy, thank you, Alex, and Betty McDaniel, both signing up to be new producers of the podcast. And I'm so grateful because we couldn't do it without the Patreon support of all the people that support the show. And we'll give everyone a little
muting the phone. I see the phone was making noise. Thank you. I don't know why I couldn't hear that, but obviously you did. So hopefully you understood everything I was talking about while the phone was playing. And thank you, Judy. And yeah, I wish that cake was real. So maybe next year we could get together in person to celebrate year 2 of Go for Lunch, and then we could all have cake together. Wouldn't that be nice? So, as always, I am still coming to see you when we need to do things in person, and also we're doing screen sharing when we can. And I think the phone is working. I mean, I think you're hearing me now and not the phone. So there's a little delay as always, so we'll wait and assume that that is working. So I have to get to an appointment here pretty quick, so I'm going to sign off. But if you have any other questions, of course, you can always call me or email me, and that information is coming up next. Thanks. Have a great day.
they carried on in that vein, Tesla wouldn't be in the shape that it's in, that's for sure. And I'll check out, I'll put a link in the show notes if you want to check out Sotheby's, the auction website. Like I say, you'll need a spare £1,000,000 or so. But it could be yours in this particular colour, which I can best describe as fluorescent yellow highlighter pen. It's the best I can do. Yeah, everyone would certainly see you coming, even if it looks like a normal Mercedes-Benz. All right, moving on. I mentioned Rivian recently on the podcast because they don't have their own insurance product, and I asked, just kind of in passing really, whether this was a similar deal to Tesla, where they have a lot of data and using an underwriter or a partner, in Tesla's case, to do the kind of back-end bit of it, or whether Rivian was simply just kind of white labelling another insurance, like a bog-standard basic insurance. Well, it turns out it's more of a Tesla model. Rivian will be selling insurance for their trucks when they start arriving in customers' driveways from next month now in June with the R1T.